welcome back to my channel. Have you ever thought about what universities and business schools teach their MBAs or Master of Business students? They're very good at teaching topics such as operations management, finance, sales and marketing. And again, it's all surrounding the paradigm that business is here to create value for the shareholders, value for the employees, and so on and so forth. However, I believe that this paradigm needs to change. There's something missing in the equation, and today I'd like to share something that is very dear to me in terms of management. And I've been trying to think about how do you reconcile the economic on one end with the social on the other hand. Because the economic without the social is cruelty. However, the social without the economic is utopia. So what is this road that goes in the middle, this equilibrium between the two? And today I'd like to share 3 milestones that may help you in finding this road. And the first milestone is about going back to people, going back to the creativity of the human being. And you see, very often we're told, well, there's a system. This is how the system works. There's nothing you can do. And it's a little bit like if we were under that system, under that pressure of the system, and there's little that we can do. And I'm here to say that no, actually, if we go back to the people, there is no system. And I'd like to give you an example to illustrate this comment. And a few weeks ago, I was driving to Monaco, and in the morning, traffic hour, it's obviously extremely busy, and I was stopped, and there was this car next to me with a kid on the phone, obviously trying to apologize for being late. And he was basically saying, well, there's all these idiots around me and I cannot move. And I sort of got upset. I was like, well, I'm one of those idiots. And then I realized, you know what? He's right. There is no traffic jam. I am the traffic jam. The traffic jam is not due to something that happened on the road, an accident, poor weather. The traffic jam is because I, along with others, made the decision this morning to take my car. I knew there would be a traffic jam. So I am not under the system, I am the system. I am not in a traffic jam, I am the traffic jam. So you see that I believe there is no system, and it takes creativity to go back to the individual. What can you do to change the situation around you? And you see, every organization, corporations, government organization, every single organization will stand to keep the status quo. Every single one of them. They will resist change, and it takes a great leader to create that environment where people will be able to freely express their creativity, freely challenge the status quo, freely understand that there is no system, it's all about us. The second milestone I'd like to share is about your environment. Who are the people that will help you? If you want your effort to be sustainable in time, you have to understand your ecosystem. You have to make sure that people actually believe and join you. Make a side step and say, you know what, let me think this is worth it. And I'd like to give you an example. In 2008, during the crisis, most of the government, actually in the US as well as in Europe, they approached the car companies and they told the car companies, you know what, you've pulled too much. Now it's time for you to give back to your subcontractors, to share, to work with them, as opposed to simply trying to pull the cover or the finance in this example towards you. Another example that is a little bit more personal, a cruise line, at the same time, the cruise lines were obviously facing great challenges. They had no passengers on board, and one cruise line decided that, wait, I will approach every single one of my employees and tell them, you know what, this is the situation we're in. Would you agree for a 5% salary reduction so that we can go through that difficult time together. And obviously one will grow, one will be out of that time, will give you back. And you know what? 96% of employees said, you know what? Yes, we'll do that. Today this cruise line is one of the leaders in the luxury market, way ahead of others. And there's probably a reason for that. So you see that it is important to understand who are you working with, how can you create value, not just for yourself, but also for your ecosystem. What is your ecosystem? Who is in your ecosystem? And are you just taking advantage of them, or are you sharing value with them, sharing success? The third milestone is actually probably the most important, and this is about the treasure of relationship. And I'd like to tell you a little story that illustrates that very powerfully. Danone, the large food company, decided in 2005 to go to Africa and enter social business, trying to create value for the African continent. Obviously, they understood that the African continent, the people in Africa, didn't have the same means to purchase their products, but also had great need to nourish their kids. There's malnutrition, and there was a great need to actually find a product that would nourish the babies and the kids in Africa. So they created this amazing yogurt. It had everything. It was relatively cheap, so it could work in Africa. And most importantly, it had all the nutritional values so that kids in Africa could greatly benefit. And it was probably a great way to eradicate malnutrition. So one day the top management of Danone went, I believe, in Bangladesh, and they went on in one of the little town, and they gathered all the women in this town, and they were all well dressed, and they put themselves in their best clothing. And obviously the top management explained what this new yogurt was. Great benefits for your kids, relatively affordable cost. And then they opened up questions, and there was great silence until one woman at the back raised her hand and said, "Hello, I'm Yasmina, and I have a question. Today, I make my own yogurt with the milk of my neighbor, and I babysit her kids so that she can in turn go and sell her milk to other villages. Now, I understand that your yogurt is good for my kids, but if I have to buy your yogurt, if I want to buy your yogurt, I will have to work to be able to afford this yogurt. And if I work, I cannot babysit the kids of my neighbor. So what is she going to do?" And you see, this is one of the most difficult questions I've ever heard. And in the past 10 years, I don't think there's an answer to that question. And the reason why there's no answer to that question is because we are unable to see further in this relationship than a very antiquated economic system where it all depends on exchange, on insecurity, on lending a hand. Our economy is the opposite. Capitalism is quite the opposite. Capitalism is all about being individual, not relying on people. We don't want to talk to a banker to get money. We don't want to talk to the shop assistant to purchase food. Actually, ideally, we'll just stay home and do everything online. So we completely dehumanized, dematerialized our economy. And today we're in an economy of stock. This is what capitalism is all about. It's about stock versus an economy of exchange, of flux, like the one for that woman in Bangladesh. It's an economy of having as opposed to an economy of being. And this is why this economy will ultimately die, because of its inability to understand the human value behind each one of our transactions. And that is the treasure of relationship, of understanding how you can work, how you can depend from others, and how you can work with others to create value. Now, to finish my discussion today, I'd like to give you a poem from an Indian poet. And basically it says, well, beyond good and evil, there is a field. In that field, I will meet with you. And I wish for you to sometimes go to that field, sit down, and reflect on the human value of business. And what you will find is you will find yourself. You will understand yourself better. So this will be my gift for you today. And thank you for watching, and see you very soon.